puzzle is broken people upset, just a bad bet. He's suspicious, she's suspicious. Everybody think these two just did it. Killed the girl, such a whirlwind, got the whole world talking.
Welcome to another episode of Making a Podcast, the podcast where we talk about crime and murder stories and how they make their way into pop culture. I'm Dave, and here with me is Jen.
Hi.
And Anthony.
Hello.
And we normally have another cast member, Katie, who wasn't here today, but we're four national journalists who cover national news.
I'm not a journalist.
Correct.
Well, you work with the station.
I do, but I'm not a journalist.
Yeah, that's true. Well, we
Disclaimer.
all work in national media, and we see these stories when they begin, and now we get to follow them and how they evolve into pop culture. So it's a little spin on that, and how these crime stories make their way into the internet. So it's our third episode, and a bunch of stuff have happened in the last week.
Should we clap? We made it to 3.
We made it to 3. Hooray!
That was no.
Yay.
Yeah,
Haters.
proud of you, Jen.
Just kidding.
So we want to start right today with the Apple iPhone saga. And so basically what has happened is...
What's the core of the problem?
The core of the problem.
Boo puns.
So the San Bernardino shootings, which were like a horrible thing. I believe 13 or 14 people died. I can't remember how much.
13.
13. And
Horrible.
it was an act of terror. And basically the government has found the iPhone that was used
By Saeed
Farouk, one of the shooters during the accident. And during the massacre, I guess.
Yeah,
is probably
wasn't an accident.
a better verb to
Probably
it.
more intentional.
Yeah. And so the government is asking Apple to unlock the phone.
Yes.
And Apple is saying that basically they've wrapped tons of...
It was 14 killed, sorry.
14 killed.
Yes.
Apple is saying that they have wrapped the phone in tons of coding and protective software that means that they can't break into it. And they don't want to break into it for the government because they said in order to do that, they would have to build a separate program that was a backdoor that they could use to get into the phone.
Yes.
And they're saying, if we build a backdoor, someone else can learn and use this technology around our software and use it to hack into other people's phones and devices.
Yep.
What the government is saying is basically, we just want you to open one phone. All we want you to do is open this one phone in this one extenuating circumstance. That is it. That's all we want from you. But Apple is saying, in order to open this one phone, we have to create technology that we are afraid puts other people's personal information at risk.
Right.
So
if it gets in the wrong hands,
yeah,
it can be used against people.
So Jen, you've been covering this a little bit as it's been developing. What do you think about what both sides are saying? I know there's been some survey data. I know that some famous people have come out on both sides from the tech industry and from the government. What are you noticing?
Well, to give you my opinion right off the bat, I don't think they should open it because I agree with that. There's already a big problem with hacking, and hackers are getting more and more advanced in their ways. So in creating that, and I mean, Apple has one of the most successful products out there. In not just the iPhone, their iPads, everything.
50% of American families own at least one Apple device.
Right.
Which
and
is
I mean,
unbelievable.
It's insane. They're taking over. Even the other day, I was walking past a cafe. Everybody had an Apple laptop. I was like, this is crazy.
Sheeple.
But anyways, and I'm one of those people. Yeah.
Yeah, we all are. As we sit here using all Apple devices to record this podcast in this moment.
I have a Galaxy, so I'm Samsung.
Oh
Loser.
I support Korean economies.
Oh, man.
Oh, let's
South
not get into
Korean
that.
economies.
Why don't you learn how to get on an iMessage, okay?
Yeah. So,
Not
and
sheeple.
I was listening to NPR right as I was driving here, and they were saying that 51% of Americans are actually pro opening the phone, which I think is kind of crazy. Yeah.
Where was this survey done? I don't.
It was on NPR. Not sure who the source is, who conducted the poll. But I'm on the opposite, only because I think it's true that we already have so many other issues with hacking in other countries that are even trying to like hack into our technologies.
Yeah.
That if that backdoor technology existed, it would put people at risk because they were pointing out like China, Iran, countries that like it's not just people here in the U.S. And even though the FBI is arguing right now, like it's just this one phone. I think You'd be opening Pandora's box, literally.
Just
Go ahead.
piggyback. We were talking about making a murderer, about how we need to uphold like a justice system, and if we did something like this, it's not to protect the terrorist, it's to protect the innocent people, because if they have this ability to plant evidence or open phones, there's no checks and balances as far as protecting the people that are innocent. So it's a slippery slope on the other end though too.
It's very slippery because, I mean, the reason Apple created their products the way they are and the reason they're so successful is because people like the fact that this, like, when they, update their products, they're selling them with the guarantee that your information is safe. Like, they even said, like, they don't have whatever. Well, you'll get into your...
Yeah, I have my own
I see
personal
Anthony
gripe.
shaking his head at me with a smirk.
But
Anthony, our Snowden truther.
But, yeah.
Team Snowden.
But at the same time, what I was thinking, and I think I was asking you guys this last week, is, the killers, I should say, both shooters in that incident are already dead. They have this one phone. Do they really think that by opening this one shooter's phone, it's going to change anything drastically? That's my biggest question. Like, by accessing the information he has on his phone, whether, it be contacts overseas or here, who knows, he might be in cahoots with other terrorists or terrorist groups. I don't know that it's going to necessarily change the outcome or the results or anything. I don't think anything different is going to come from it. I really don't. Just because even if they have that information, and I don't know, who knows what could be on his phone? It could be nothing. It could be a lot, emails overseas. Who knows? I don't know. But I just don't think it's going to create this, like Anthony said, you're going to create this technology to unlock this one phone for this one case. If this case doesn't evolve from this, okay, then that's fine. But then you're left with this program that now all these other people are going to be potentially at risk.
Well, so these are some famous people that have come out on different sides of this.
Yes.
So Bill Gates basically said the concern was that, and I agree with this, I think Apple's concerned that if they do this for this one small case, it sets a precedent that the government can basically employ Apple and other phone makers and security providers as part of their like extended crime team in certain situations. Right. And they don't think it's just going to stop at this. And that's why one of the reasons Bill Gates said he doesn't think that Apple should do it is because their private company shouldn't be used as an armchair for the government police force. Right. I'm not sure I completely agree with that, but that's what he said. Then you have people like McAfee, the software security provider, the antivirus maker, who basically said, if you just hand me the phone, I'll break into the phone and I'll just do the individual phone. That's exactly what he said. He was like, you guys are being ridiculous. You don't have to build this crazy backdoor. You just don't want to do it. Hand me the phone and I'll get into it. And then there's people like Anthony's BFF, Edward Snowden,
Hells yeah.
who said from Russia that if they do build this backdoor, that would mean that people who have a iPhone 5S or earlier model could have their phones broken into, and he estimated in less than 2 hours. So basically that means that you are already, and we have some huge security concerns as it is with data because so much of our money is digital. I mean, you think about Venmo and no one bouncing a checkbook and all of this stuff. Like, if my digital money got wiped, it's not like I have tangible money in the bank. So I think security encryption is huge, and it's a massive business. I mean, I have a friend who works doing cryptography, like trying to put coding to break codes and create codes so that messages can be encrypted. And Apple spends a lot of time and money encrypting every single piece of data that we have so other people can't get to it. That to create some type of virus to open it up is a little scary. Yeah. I feel like the best thing you can do is to see if someone can hack one phone. The problem is normally when they hack one phone, they reset all the data inside it. And then you're getting nothing out of this guy's phone if you reset all the data.
Well, I think they should call up John McAfee and take him up on his offer and see what he can do.
But like, right? I mean, I don't know the legal like jargon that they have to go through as far as they said they have a subpoena and they're waiting for it. So I mean, I don't know. I know the FBI is in a tough spot because they're trying to prevent terrorism and everything. But it's just kind of interesting when you have something like the Patriot Act that has been passed, where the NSA apparently can predict this stuff before it apparently happens, where we have keywords in your phone calls and all sorts of stuff that's supposed to protect people. But then in this case where the federal government has clearly failed to prevent these like occurrences, and maybe to that defense because they don't have the access. But I remember reading, it was like in 2008 that Apple before has released terrorist information. And I want to be cynical, but I feel like to an extent it could be publicity where they're like, we stand with the people. And you were alluding to my point of how I have a gripe with Apple, and it's because there's been like documentation where they have sold personal information for advertising. So it's hard to pick and choose when they're saying they're protecting people, but when it's your search history or, you know, what is relevant to you, how they can personalize stuff. And Google's done it too, where we're this sacred, you know, privacy protector, but
Right.
I don't know. It's hard to see the genuine in it when, I mean, I stand with it. It's really cool that they've done that, but it's hard to see the intent, if that makes sense.
I think this is going to be Apple released a letter to everyone who uses an Apple product. They put it all over the internet being like, please read this. This is why we don't want to jeopardize your safety. So I think it is a PR thing. But for me, what I'm noticing is the hard part is there's no restriction. Like they say it's just this one phone. But we know the next time a major incident happens, they're going to try to get in that phone. And what draws the line between a major and minor incident? And that's what Apple is saying.
You too?
I feel like this is going to be the type of issue where pretty soon they're going to be asking for people to sign protests that they send. When the FBI like reinforces the court order to make Apple do it, I think we're going to see protests all over the internet protests where you just sign your name to something in a form of protest.
Yeah.
Moving along. In Michigan this weekend, this one's kind of crazy. So, an Uber driver, Jason Brian Dalton, is charged with 16 counts, including 6 for murder, after he went on a weekend shooting spree, basically while driving Uber in between. And no one knows the motive. No one knows why he did it. He even picked up fares as an Uber driver in between the shootings. One guy said that he drove with the guy earlier in the day and he was driving in a different car than the cops eventually caught him with later. The story's nuts. Apparently he was a frequenter to this gun shop and he bought a heavy duty jacket that day, which is like a large jacket that you can discreetly carry a weapon inside of. But that's what people who do concealed carry typically wear at times. So basically people are saying he was just doing his regular things that he did all the time. He laughed and hugged an employee at like a store that he was a regular at. He saw the guy at the gun shop. They said there was nothing alarming. And then eventually they went to his house and they found 11 rifles. And he just went on like a weird shooting spree. Pretty nuts. I think this is everyone's major concern with Uber and Lyft was like, oh no, what if this, like, people always, when I told them, because I've driven for Uber and Lyft over 2 years now. 2 years and change. I started in October, over 2 years ago, 2.5 almost. And people would always say, well, like, what about the safety concerns of driving around strangers? And what if your Uber driver is a creep and blah, blah.
Don't they have extensive background checks?
No.
They don't have them as much as they used to. They grew too fast. They used to have more intense background checks, but the demand grew so quickly that they just want to add drivers that they have dropped security. But also, what's the idea
We should get Apple involved.
I mean, the idea is they know who you are based on when I pick someone up. They know who's picking them up, and all my data, where my location is when I'm on the app, I'm always signed into where my location is, and they know who I am. They have my credit card information, where I'm from, my license, my insurance provider, all that stuff is the driver. The passenger, we have their credit card information and their Facebook profile. The problem is you can get an Uber from someone else's profile and then just get in the car and be like, oh, my friend booked this for me, but I'm getting in. And I, as a driver, can pick you up, log off the app, take off my location services, drive you to the middle of nowhere. And so it's just like a taxi. Nothing is ever perfectly safe in goods and services. But I think this only cements everyone's biggest fear, which is we've become so comfortable with ride sharing that like, what if I get a crazy? What if I get, especially girls, girls talk to me all the time like, aren't you really nervous that you're gonna get like pick someone up from a bar and they're gonna be wasted and they're just gonna go off on you?
Well, we've seen it happen. I mean, there have been instances on both sides, whether you're a passenger or you're a driver, where like, you're right, like you said. So the company has grown so much in the last few years, Uber and Lyft both, to where they don't have like the security and I guess even the customer service, like there's a lot lacking in both companies that I think before getting as big as they are, they should have, as a company, taken it upon themselves to better these, these factions of their business. Because, for example, I'll say it quickly. So a few months back, I took a Lyft with a few friends, and there was of course, the people I was with some were more intoxicated than others.
Were you being a ratchet?
No, I was not. But somebody I was with was.
Okay.
And so basically, long story short, there was an altercation with our driver. And right off the bat, he, mind you, we were 5 girls, 5 women. He was male, obviously. But even just his approach to the situation, he was rude. So, a friend of mine got upset. And so long story short, I ended up, because it was on my account, I was the one who called the ride. I ended up getting an email saying that they were, charging me a fee for damaging his car, which there was no damage.
Did you dispute?
So I disputed. Basically, there is absolutely no customer service. You can't talk to a human being.
So that's the worst thing as a driver. Because when I started, the first 3 or 4 months, if I had a problem, I could call, and they had a call server, and I could talk to people. Mm-hmm. They eliminated all of their customer service.
Which is nuts. How can you grow and then eliminate customer service?
They do it only email-oriented stuff.
Insane.
And basically,
I got refunded.
It's really hard for them to get through the emails. So what they do is they refund people more often than not. But it's horrible if you're a driver and you need help.
It's horrible on both ends.
Yeah.
That is true, actually.
You feel like, this company who you rely on and you support, and then there's no support on their end if something goes awry, which is terrible. Yeah, for drivers or passengers.
Or either organization, Lyft or Uber.
Right.
They have Lyft and Uber have terrible security or customer service.
And like you said, how, if a driver does go bonkers mid-ride, whatever, aside from once, the act is over, once they go on this horrible spree and the cops track them down, there's no way of tracking them. There's no security. You're in this car with this person. So, right, you're signing up for that at your own risk. But
to an extent.
But that's why there's the whole dispute with actual taxi companies and private ride-sharing companies, because the cabs goes back to that argument. They're upset because they're we go through all this certification. We go through these background checks, and...
Well, they're upset because their overhead is more. Because they have to pay for...
But I'm saying even
security. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying even security, it's true. Anybody could, if you have a 4-door car, you go through these very minor steps. You could become a driver,
It should be extensive background checks.
There's definitely.
To this dude's, I feel like this is a crazy case, and I don't want people to be scared or whatever, because I don't want to give this asshole more attention than he needs.
No, a shooting spree like this is somebody who's mentally ill, and it's the type of shooting spree that, unfortunately, in our business, we see people do at the mall. We see people do.
It's a cry for attention.
Yeah,
he's a douche.
It's more. But I will say the security thing goes both ways, because I'm going to tell a quick story about one time I was driving Lyft, and I had picked up several rides. I was doing a very long shift on a Saturday, and I picked up these 3 guys who I didn't really... They were the only people the entire day. 99.9% of the people I've ever picked up in Lyft and Uber were very cool.
Right, and all my drivers, except for this one incident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
Yes.
And I've done hundreds of Lyft and Uber rides, especially when we first started as a news station. And I would do the rides, and I picked these guys up, and they just weren't very... They were very strange and a little demanding, and it just wasn't a comfortable energy in my car. And I drove them 20 minutes away, and I dropped them off. Did a couple more rides, and later someone said, hi. They were in the back seat, and I was driving them, and they said, hey, I know this is going to feel weird, but I think somebody left their wallet back here. There's no money in it or anything, but I wanted to hand it to you. And so I looked, and they had handed me a wallet, and inside, I opened the wallet up. There's a bunch of cards and everything. I had to look through the cards to find a license so I could figure out who it is. And I pulled up the license, and it was one of the 3 people I was uncomfortable with. And because of the security they have, I don't have direct access to contact anyone who's...
Right, you can't text
I can't text or call them or anything. So I was thinking okay, I'm going to be a good person, because I really do try to be a good person. And I'm at the end of this, tomorrow morning I'll wake up, I'll go back to the bar that I picked these people up at, and I'll drop off the wallet at the bar, because hopefully he'll go back to that place where I picked him up. And now it's about 2:30 in the morning. The bar close just ended, and I get a notification from Lyft on my phone that says someone believes they left something in your Lyft. If they did, you can respond to this. And I respond, and I get their phone number, and I contact the person. And it wasn't the actual driver. It wasn't the person who requested it. It was one of the other people he went with.
Right.
And they said, can you return this wallet? And I'm, you're far away from me. I'll do it tomorrow. I got to do something else. Please, I really need the wallet now. I really need the wallet now. So being the good person I am, at 3 a.m, they were like, we'll pay you $20. It's fine, whatever. So I drive with a friend who I was also driving home, like the end of the night, just being a good person. Drive with him.
Need to drive home that point. Dave's a great person.
Yeah, if we need to clarify.
I'm trying to be a good person, and this is what happens when you try to be a good person. 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm offering my friend a ride home to also drop off a wallet for a stranger that I didn't even like the first time I met him. And I'm going, and I go to his neighborhood, and I find him, and I call, and he comes outside to meet me, and I'm like, hey, I have your wallet. There was no money in it or anything, but here it is. And I hand him the wallet, and he opens the wallet, and then all of a sudden grabs me by the throat and goes, where is my cocaine?
Which is nuts.
And I was like,
when Dave
what?
Told me
Dave's
this
like,
story,
I'm a good person. I'm a good person.
I was like, what? And then
Yeah.
he sees my friend get out of the car that I'm with, and I start looking at him, he's like touching the back of his pants, and I'm thinking, oh, like, don't take out a knife or something. Now I got like a coke junkie on me.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Hey,
dude,
let's not
calm
judge.
down. I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I just handed you your wallet. He's like, well, you must have known it was in there and taken it because you knew there was no money in there.
You're like, yeah, I was looking.
I was like,
through your
yes,
wallet
I looked
for
through your
a
wallet
license.
to find
like-
your license.
Open a wallet. Not
That's what
see
you
stuff
do
in
when
it.
you find it. And I was like, if I took your cocaine, which I would never
Why
do,
would you drive
why
back?
would I be here at 3:15 in the morning
Yeah.
returning said wallet to you?
Yeah.
And he was like, and I was like, if that happened, chucked your wallet out the window, never talking to you again.
Yeah, you're like, I don't have
And
to come
I was like,
back
I'm
here.
here right now to give you your wallet. And which is, everyone's like, well, how would you ever reason with like a weird coke tweaker
Well,
at
because
3 in the morning?
you thought
But
you
I'm
were
just
doing
trying to.
someone a favor.
I was like, just
Yeah.
that's just me
Yeah.
naturally to be like, hello, humanity, get some
Well,
inside
you're like,
you.
Get a clue, bro.
Yeah, and I was like,
Come
I don't
on.
know. You want to go look in my car? What do you want to do? Like, just, and he was like, I'm sorry, I spent a lot of money on that. I'm just, literally, that's what he said. He's like, I'm just freaking out. I'm really mad at myself. And he literally, I didn't mean to do this.
You're like, do I need to give you an intervention
I'm sorry.
right now?
Yeah,
too?
literally, I'm so sorry. I'm like, it's okay. I do that thing from Goodwill Hunting. I'm like, it's not your fault.
You're like, breathe.
It's
cocaine
not-
junkie, breathe.
It's not your fault. It's no. But anyway, I was like, look in my car, blah, blah, blah. So he looks in my car. He sees, it's like, whatever, I'm going to sleep. I'm sorry. Thanks for the blah, blah, blah. And my friend is like, that is crazy. And we drive 2 blocks away. And I stop the car and I open the back seat and I look for 15 seconds in the back seat of the car. And I find like a small bag of cocaine in the back seat of my car, which I was like, this is not me. I do not do any type of drugs like that. I do not have them around me.
Like that.
No, I don't.
No synthetics.
I don't. Yeah, I don't do that. And then I went through a DUI checkpoint while driving
Oh my
Lyft
God.
earlier that night and that wasn't weird to me at all. But that could have gotten me in huge trouble.
Right.
And it's like, are you kidding me that this scenario even exists?
He gets to the DUI point. He's like, I'm a good person. It's not mine.
I know. I'm just. What am I just found the wallet. It's like,
They're like, okay,
So
sir, step out of the car.
it's just
You're a
basically.
good person.
Every job has inherent risks.
Of
And I didn't
course,
stop
of
driving
course.
Uber and Lyft because I knew that he was the 1% or less than 1%.
Yeah.
And it's really unfortunate because the more we rely on technology and sort of the anonymous good citizen, the more we are afraid of that person hitting us in our vulnerable spots.
True.
Yeah.
But
Don't
if there's
do
one
cocaine.
takeaway,
Or
two
kill people.
takeaways,
Yeah.
don't do cocaine. And for Lyft and Uber, they really, as companies, if they want to do themselves a non-disservice, they really, really, really need to like invest in like a good security / customer
Like I
service.
said, Apple needs to get
Center.
involved.
Yeah, they need
with
to
their
step
something.
it up.
They really do.
They
Like,
need to figure something out.
Yes.
They need to up their customer service to help provide security and just confidence for people.
right.
Yeah.
Moving to Florida, one of our weirder stories.
Shout out to Kyle Warnke from Florida,
One of
who's now in Korea.
he's now in Korea. Friend of the podcast.
Yes.
One of our stranger stories. A 18-year-old young man had been impersonating a doctor and undercover cops eventually went to his medical practice. I'm saying that with air quotes. They went to his medical practice, and they learned that he was basically not a doctor at all, and was like rubbing them and pretending he had all these certificates
I have
and
so
stuff.
many questions.
Who's to say he wasn't a doctor?
He became an imposter. Supposedly they arrested him.
Allegedly.
All this stuff, and he's saying, well, like, I've been to a lot of conferences and I've done a lot of research on my own that I have all these skills and you guys are wrong and blah blah blah. He had been caught previously, like a year or two previously, pretending to be a gynecologist,
which is nuts.
I feel like that's the thing. As a 16-year-old boy, you're like, oh, this will be so funny, and then like day one of actually doing it, you're like, I didn't want to sign up for this.
How sick is this dude on prom night though, where he's just like, by the way, I'm a gynecologist. Like, that's his pickup line.
I would be like,
yeah, Anthony,
bye.
I don't know what type of women you're seducing, but anyone that I've ever met where seducing is not attracted to the sketchy 18-year-old gynecologist.
Shows what you guys know. When you're 16, you don't go to a gynecologist unless you have some issues. So
that's what I was getting at, really.
But anyway, how about the balls on this guy to just go back at it and impersonate a doctor again? Have you ever seen the movie Cider House Rules? With Tobey Maguire.
No.
He like lives in an orphanage, and
Okay.
he helps the orphanage doctor for so many years, and he never gets picked by a family. And eventually they just fake all his credentials to make him a doctor. And he's like, well, I already have the skills anyway, so we might as well just pretend he's one. That's what this kid is trying to argue. He's like, well, I've been to the conferences. I did this web seminars.
Right.
So like I feel really
I'm legit, bro.
I feel really comfortable, like, you know, looking at women who are getting pregnant and telling them how they're going to do giving birth to a new life.
How does this go on so long, though?
I actually wish we could interview somebody that was actually a patient.
That's
because
amazing.
I really want to know. Like, obviously, it lasted long enough. Like, it didn't start to raise flags for a little bit. So I'm like, okay, it's first, second, third patient. Like, what advice did he give this woman? Was he like, oh, you know, your cervix looks great, man. Like, your pregnancy is going right along. This is what you need to, like, I don't understand.
I'm pretty sure he said the phrase, this is going to feel a little cold.
Like, I don't, wow. Like, and then okay, he must have a family. What, did he just, like, get, like, did he come up with this fabricated story? Like, I have an internship at, you know, such a, excuse me, such and such Presbyterian hospital. Like, go and take
he
it.
had
And then
to
he
have
just
faked, like,
popped
all
in
of
there,
his,
put on a white coat, and, like, just was,
Absolutely.
like, picking up clipboards. Like, I don't, what?
This might
Like,
sound-
Well, the undercover cop said that he was, like, giving them general
It was a blood
medical.
pressure.
Yeah, he's holistic, which is just a big word for, like, I'm just going to say what I feel in this scenario.
well, don't bash holistic
No,
doctors.
no, I'm
If
not.
my
I'm just
friend
saying-
Emily was here right now, she'd go bonkers on you because
no.
she's all about the
I
holistic
believe-
Was this the
doctors.
same girl in the Lyft driver who got you banned?
No,
Oh.
she actually was not there that night.
Clarification.
I believe there's a lot of positive to be said about being a holistic doctor. But when it comes to a kid like this, he's like, they said the undercover cop was getting like body massages to like move muscular stuff around. Like this
What a
kid,
fucking
it's really just an
asshole.
18. And what that does is unfortunately, it belittles people who actually have taken a lot of time to be
No, I
holistic
know.
medical
It's
personnel.
awful.
He's basically making a mockery of the system.
how
Being
does
like,
this
oh, I
happen,
can go
though?
on WebMD and then basically learn enough that I can
Yeah,
give medical
how
advice.
did it happen?
But dude, like,
How?
you walk into a doctor, right? And you're
Right.
like, this kid is young as shit. No one walks out the next day and be like, yeah, there's something sketchy about that. Because you think
He
of
looks
doctors-
older than he is.
Yes.
I mean, he
Yeah.
has like a beard and he's wearing glasses and he's well
give you
kept
that,
and he
I
looks like he
guess.
could be in his early 20s.
Well, and
Who's
even-
finding a gynecologist on Craigslist though? Because definitely that's the only way you find out
Well,
about
dude,
this.
that's
I
American
don't
health care system is pretty fucked
Do you think?
up, so it
do you,
makes sense.
do you think
I don't-
he's giving like his patients are giving referrals? Like you should.
He
go-
actually got good reviews on Yelp. If I
Oh,
could be
yeah, he
mistaken,
had a
but
Yelp.
He actually
I
was
yeah,
positively
yeah.
reviewed.
Oh my god.
You want
Although,
to pull some of those
can
out?
can we really trust anything on Yelp though?
Maybe we should be talking about Yelp security. All right. It's
No.
not just
I
about
think-
Uber and Lyft. It's about the security
Oh,
of Yelp.
God, don't even get me started on Yelp.
Well, you heard about. Well, there was a girl this week who
People
got
need to
fired
form-
from Yelp. She wrote a letter saying that she works at Yelp, a great tech company. They don't pay her enough money to eat and pay off her loans, and she's 26. And
What a
like
bitch.
she wrote an open letter to her CEO, and he fired her the next day and was like, "Stop complaining and start working harder and make yourself more valuable." Which is actually respect it. I
mean,
respect
well,
it.
yeah.
Respect the moxie.
People need to form their own opinions, though.
So my question is, when this kid he's out on bail right now, he's fighting in court. I think,
Oh yeah, that's the best part. So when he was, sorry to interrupt you, but
No.
when there was a local reporter walking, he was in handcuffs. I remember this, like watching, because we covered this story at work. And he's in handcuffs, he's getting interviewed, and he's literally so confident, it blows my mind. He is not sorry
he's gotta
at
be a
all.
sociopath, yeah.
So I'm
Absolutely.
just like, what is going on in your head right now? Yeah.
He's like, we're gonna fight it in court, and I will prove. Yeah, and do you think he's definitely gonna be a fake doctor again? So my question is, like, he's got to start giving mammary exams, right? Like, it's the natural production.
I don't know about that. I think he needs to get evaluated, and I think we need to interview, like, his patients, his family. Like, I want to know more.
Do you think, if given his current history with the law, he still qualifies to pass the background check to be a Lyft and Uber driver? He's like, I'll drive you to the bar and I'll examine your lady parts at the same time.
Yeah, I'll give you a physical.
It's
for
what we
free.
call a holistic full-service Lyft drive.
Oh God.
Nice callback.
Thank you. All right, so we moved from some of the craziness in the news to a little bit more in the pop culture and TV.
Yeah, good call.
Really getting a lot of steam with The People versus OJ, which is the crime drama of the minute. Everybody seems to enjoy a nice little murder mystery.
I don't.
And so that's what we're going to
love
talk
it.
about. Anthony, I'll let you get started, but I've seen all of the episodes. Jen, I know you haven't watched them.
No.
I know you're considering whether or not to watch it, so maybe when
Yes.
you listen to us talk, you'll make a decision about that. But the idea is, basically, they've humanized all the people who play out in the OJ case and dramatized it a little bit.
A lot.
Anthony, what are your thoughts?
All right.
The writing's terrible. Do we
God,
just say that?
Dude, the fucking show is garbage. I'm sorry.
Then why does everyone love it? Like, why is it the new hot thing?
Because
why is it
murder-
hot in the streets right now?
Because
it's
murder...
on Netflix. Isn't
That-
it? Oh no, wait.
but
No,
there's-
it's
it's
not.
on FX.
Oops,
It's on
my
FX.
bad.
I think murder
Yes.
is getting its traction as far as like the murder mysteries. People like the sensationalism and all that.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest problem is that, like, especially with, I don't know, from a film standpoint, there's no mystery at all. It's just spoon fed. There was a part where the cops show up, and I'm trying not to be spoilery, even though the case is already out or whatever. But he shows up, and they see the blood on the thing, and they see the she's been murdered clearly. And then there's like 3 minutes later, he walks over, and they like see the glove on the ground. And he's like, "What's that?" He's like, "This is a crime scene." It's like, yeah, you're on a crime scene. You saw a dead body. Why is that now being said?
Well, and you're a cop.
It's
like,
just,
no.
it's so
yeah.
The writing is bad
it's
because
so
it doesn't
bad.
leave anything. I mean, we all have experience trying to write and with good writers and writers that are a little bit not as talented. The problem with this is they write everything out so blunt. It's so annoying.
I think
Rob Kardashian, played by David Schwimmer, Ross from Friends.
Oh my God,
And-
yes.
And he's going with all the Kardashian kids, which they make so horribly obnoxious and so terrible that my biggest fear is they take the OJ story and turn it into a Kardashian family.
Well, who do you
origin
side
story.
note? Who do you think is more annoying? Kardashians on their show or Kardashians on The People versus
is-
OJ?
it is so
Anything
close.
Kardashian.
It
fuck
is so close, dude.
I think also
Anyways,
the case
continue.
was very sensationalized as far as the media, so I get the over the top approach, but I
Dude,
literally had to
they-
look up interviews from
he's-
Shapiro because I wanted to know how this guy talked in person. Because like Travolta's just like, "Oh yes, I'm so rich and a lawyer."
He's Danny Zuko.
He's
What do you
really
expect?
he's really bothering me because he's so John Travolta that he can't be anyone else other than John Travolta is a lawyer. And his face is so plastic.
Yeah, it's pretty,
It is so
I
thinly
don't wanna-
stretched.
yeah.
Poor
He looks
guy.
like Jim Carrey from The
Yeah.
Mask. He looks like Jim Carrey from
I
The
don't
Mask.
wanna,
I'm
like,
just being honest.
I don't
poke
want to
fun at
bet.
his
I
personal
know,
appearance.
but
No, but
I
the
know,
thing
I
is,
know
when you
what mean.
choose to do that to yourself as an actor, it makes
Right.
you harder to be an actor at times.
It's hard to take. Yes, it's hard to take him
But
seriously. when
this
you're
one
like,
line of
oh.
writing, all the Kardashian kids are sitting at the table with Rob, the dad, and
Robert,
sorry,
Bob.
and they're all sitting there, and they're like, oh, "Mom's famous, and Bruce Jenner's famous. Bruce is famous. He sells Thigh Masters. Like, Dad, you're famous. Why are you gonna be famous? Blah blah blah." And he's sitting there, and this is the way they have the writing. They say, "Kids, it's not about being famous. Fame is fleeting. It's about being a good person. We're Kardashians. He says we're Kardashians. We're about being good people.
Poor
And you're
man.
just sitting there
Little
being
does
like,
he know.
Well, A, that's not true. B, we know you died, so maybe they family went downhill a little bit after that. And you were
Clearly, I think he was the only one that knew what it was to work
that's
hard.
what they're trying to say. That's what they're going to try to say. But give me a little humility. Show it through the actions.
Yeah.
Show it through the development. Show
Right.
it through why the children are different when they're with you and not with their mom. Don't write it out like I'm a toddler. The writing is bad.
It's really spoon-fed.
Oh,
the
is
best
it?
the best actors in the entire thing are Johnny Cochran. I really
Yeah,
like the guy who's
he's
playing
actually
him.
okay.
He's killing it. I
Sarah
think he's doing a great job.
Allis, I think her
Yeah,
name is.
she's
She's
lead,
actually really good.
The lead
Prosecutor.
prosecutor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those two people are the saving grace of the show. But this is what I've honestly learned about it. First off, now the way murder mystery pop culture is moving is that if a couple people get into a show, you feel like you have to watch it if you want to be on the murder mystery train, because I'm watching every episode.
Right.
OJ's story is so captivating and so
That's what I was gonna
unbelievable
say. Okay,
that
I'll
no
tell-
matter how bad the acting is and how bad the writing is, you can make the OJ story as good as you want it to be, because the OJ story is fascinating. So even if you have terrible acting, even if you have terrible writing, if you get a couple famous people and the OJ story, you're going to make good TV. So, Jen, you got to watch that, I think, and form your own opinion, because we've obviously slanted it a little bit. But why
Yes.
didn't you watch it? Because your mom?
So I'm old school / new school. So I don't.
You're all the schools. You're all the
I'm
schools.
all the schools. I'm the education. Just
Are
kidding.
you in middle school?
No, I don't have cable at home because primarily I watch everything on Hulu, Netflix, all that jazz. Yes. So
Must be nice to be
I
rich with
try to get my
subscriptions.
mother's login so I can log on the computer and watch it. And she is like so not tech savvy. I wonder why she keeps buying technology. She doesn't know how to use it. She doesn't know her login basically. So I'm stuck. I don't. So holler at your girl. Hook me up with a login, peeps, and then I can watch it.
And you can form your own opinion.
And I can form my own
And you can make
opinion.
fun of Ross.
Yeah. You know, that's the other thing, too. I feel like
In the middle,
I'm swayed.
he's just like in the middle. All of a sudden, he just stands up and he's like, "Rachel, why won't you just be with me?"
We were on a break. Yeah.
Uncle Juice, why won't Rachel just be with me? That's what he says.
No. I just think it's like such a good case. I don't know if this got cut off or not, but I remember growing up and that case being, you know, in the background of my life, but I wasn't old enough to appreciate it. So I would like
Appreciate
to see
it.
well,
Questionable adjective.
appreciate the case.
The
Yeah, that is
fascination.
questionable. Appreciate the
We can
fascination.
appreciate a
yes.
good crime story here at Making a Podcast.
Well, and just how it carried out, you know,
I
and
feel
so
more bad for the killed.
Really? Well,
Oh my
yes,
God.
of course.
I'm sorry I can't see you from up on your high horse right now.
I'm not the one.
Jeez.
I'm a good person. I delivered cocaine at 3 a.m.
Wow!
He didn't
it was a
deliver it, he
delivery.
took it.
Oh yeah, you're an asshole. I'm just kidding.
No. So with that,
You don't know what that was
would-
like, okay?
I
I
will-
stayed up late at
Oh,
night
God.
after that happened.
I'm
Yeah,
sure
'cause
you did. Stop doing people's cocaine,
No, he
Dave.
said he's not into that. He said he's not into that.
People thought I had a hickey. It was the opposite of a hickey.
It was a
What?
chokey.
I had a chokey.
Chokey.
I had a chokey. It was the opposite of a hickey.
How sad. They're like, oh, Dave.
How sad? No, not sad for them. Sad for me. I was wearing high-collared
That's what I'm
shirts,
saying. It's
buttoned
sad
all the
for
way
you.
up.
You
Oh
should
my
have just
God.
owned it and said, yeah, it is.
You know,
a
like
hickey.
it felt like you're in early high school and you have a hickey and you don't want people to know.
No.
But my hickey
That
was
wasn't me.
from a cokehead.
Hey, he could have. We don't know if he was doing it. He just spent it. It could have been a gift. We
Who
don't wanna
kn-
judge.
Okay. Anyway,
Anyways.
we're moving along.
Yes.
It finally happened. I was the last holdout. I've fallen off the wagon for Serial
Season 2.
They came out this week with Hindsight Parts 1 and 2, and I officially am totally off the wagon. I am so disappointed because there is no linear story. There is no story arc. She has no plan. I'm fully convinced. I kept holding out 5-6 episodes, waiting for her to show me a plan, waiting for a reveal, tell me about the negotiations. Instead, we just got like minutes and minutes of unplanned time about who Bo Bergdahl was. But we already have all that. You're not telling me anything. There's no story arc. There's no linear progression.
Called it.
It was hard. It was hard
yeah.
for me to listen this week. A couple things that made me laugh. They made me laugh and they weren't necessarily good, and I was not entertained. One of them was talking about Bo Bergdahl, and they're saying like, oh, he wants to be like the ancient warrior. He wants to be a samurai. He wants like he was obsessed with kung fu.
Yeah.
It's like, are you kidding me?
He sucks.
And then he's saying that he kept telling them, which originally they said he did this, just didn't tell anyone and left. But they said he threatened to like leave and go to India and eventually make his way to Russia and be like a hitman for the Russian mob. And he wanted to be like a killer for hire, like an underground killer for hire.
This fucking guy.
So he was telling all these people, and basically one guy said, like, he didn't tell us he was going to leave. But it sort of felt like if you see an ice cream truck, this was the exact analogy he used. If you see an ice cream truck and you're with someone and they're like, man, I'd really like some ice cream. And then 3 minutes later, you don't see them. You think, hey, maybe I should check and see if they ran after the ice cream truck. That was what he used to describe Bo Bergdahl running off a base in Afghanistan. Like, this is where we're at. This is how all over the place this is.
Yeah.
So crazy.
Well, and like you said before, he had been discharged already once.
Oh,
right?
yeah. So this is the other thing that we were...
Oh yeah, the
we
Coast
were
Guard.
talking about.
Yes.
He got discharged from the Coast Guard, which it was just like he got discharged from the Coast Guard. He went back in. He needed a mental health check when he went back in, and they basically vetted him and moved him through. They said like almost 20% of people who were being discharged before were being re-allowed in because they needed people.
Which that I think is bad. If you need
Absolutely.
people,
So
you're
bad.
gonna sacrifice basically everybody else.
And I said, from what I understand from the
That's
military, like, I'm not a military
Right.
person, but my dad was a vet in Vietnam. And, like, from what I understand from people around me who are involved in the military, one loose link in the chain jeopardizes everybody else. And by the government letting in people with questionable mental cognitive issues, enough so that they're pleading that maybe he had some mental problems. That could be their defense if he gets court-martialed. But then also...
Well, then why did you allow him in?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Your vetting process clearly has a problem if you're willing to jeopardize everybody else.
Exactly.
The last part that I thought was hilarious was they're talking about him in Idaho when he's like in his young teens, and he is growing up and he meets this family. He has this job with this family that becomes almost a surrogate family to him. And he's working at their tea shop, and they said that one of the jobs he had there was security. And she said it was like kind of funny, but also a little bit practical. He was hiding weapons.
Yes,
around,
practical.
hiding weapons around the tea shop. They said like a ball and chain, like that girl who was a bad guy in Kill Bill. And like I can just see him. It made me think of, you guys watch The Office?
Yes.
Anthony, you don't watch The Office.
Still haven't
do you?
seen it.
No, you haven't seen the.
I hear great things.
Dwight.
Oh wow.
You know how Dwight is in the office and he has all these weapons and he hides them around the office, and they show the one scene where he's just like taking weapons from underneath like desks and up in the ceiling and stuff like that. He has weapons hidden all. Bo Bergdahl was a teenage version of Dwight Schrute in a tea shop in Indiana. He's hiding weapons. Like, can't you see, like, in the potted plant, there's Death Stars in case, like, the wrong group of people, well, and he
They're
has to
called
defend them.
Sirikins. Okay.
Then I started to picture Dwight Schrute in Afghanistan, and it made sense to me. Like,
Pakistan.
if he was in Afghanistan and Pakistan,
yeah.
he would be like
Same
the
thing.
best at PT. He would do all the research, but he would be like the one who's smoking a pipe while everyone's smoking cigarette and being all nerdy. And
I'm
they're like,
different.
Let's go to
different.
Amsterdam, and he's like, oh, they have great economic system. That would be Dwight, and then Dwight would be the one who's be like, I could just run away from here if I wanted to and join the KGB underground. If I want to, like, I could just kung fu the shit out of you. And you sort of just realize, like, he is Dwight Schrute. Like, Bo Bergdahl and Dwight Schrute are pretty much the same person. It makes sense in my head. This is what Dwight Schrute would do. Be a superhero warrior and just run off the
God.
base. And now I feel like I'm not as into the show because I solved the mystery. And the mystery was that Bo Bergdahl and Dwight Schrute are the same person.
What I'm gathering is you're saying that our U.S. military should watch The Office for recruitment tactics on who they should and shouldn't take. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that beet farmers...
Beet farmers.
Beet farmers
not-
might go off the rails in Afghanistan. But it's...
We just
I'm
need more
getting-
substance, I think.
I'm getting to the point where I thought she had a plan, and now it's like, Sarah Koenig, if you are listening, please,
She's not.
please do something about the prisoner exchange, because I know
Yeah.
enough about Bo, and like he was in jail for, in a prison, and it was horrible, and like in a cage, and I can only imagine Dwight Schrute in a cage, for which I would watch that TV show if Dwight Schrute was in Afghanistan sprinting away from a base. But I just can't imagine that there's no plan. She needs to start to get to the bargaining part in the
Right.
prisoner
Enough
exchange, 'cause
details
there's
about
nothing
him.
left.
He's an oddball.
I've been waiting for 5 episodes for it. I'm finally off the
The
wagon.
only thing that I take away from this is that it's more the military's fault in the sense that they set this motion and plan because they let him in, and they had mental background checks where they could have prevented this.
I
To an
would say
extent.
that's something I didn't really know before, so
Yes.
that is pretty interesting. I do think maybe that there is kind of like a slight issue with their vetting process, as there are issues with a lot of vetting processes
Yes.
apparently in a lot of our systems.
Like
That's
Lyft
another
drivers
story.
and Uber drivers.
But another thing that Dave said, I am more
Don't even
interested
get
to
me
see about
started
the whole
Yelp.
prisoner, no Yelp, the whole prisoner swap, because that's also a huge controversy right now
Yeah,
that's
that's
happening with the
really
whole
bad.
Guantanamo prisoners and shutting down the prison.
Yeah, now President Obama said he's going to shut it down. He gave his formal plan, which he promised like 7 years ago.
I was gonna say he
Right.
said that on day one, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
and now
he's
he's
been saying that forever.
that he has 13 prisons that he plans to move the Guantanamo prisoners to in the U.S., which is kind
Right.
of ridiculous
Yeah.
because basically people are really upset that they have the idea of a major terrorist is staying in a prison in their community.
Right.
Which probably doesn't help that there was a massive jailbreak in New York because that one lady was having sex with 2 male inmates and then helped them get power tools in. And they painted pictures for her, and then they drilled out of the prison. So I'm just
so
saying,
many innuendos here. Power
I'm just
drills.
saying,
They
like,
did.
there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah.
There was probably some gnarly prison threesomes, is what it
Oh
sounds
my
like.
God,
Oh,
so
stop.
gross, Anthony.
Stop.
What? You set it up.
Anthony is the guy who seduces women by pretending to be a gynecologist at prom. I just want to reinforce that happened. That happened. You said that
Oh
happened.
God.
You know how many times
no.
it worked?
If you can
I-
see his face right now, it makes me uncomfortable to
Zero.
sit near
Eyebrows
him.
a little raised, little smirk.
I'm
Yeah.
actually just impersonating Robert Shapiro or John Travolta as Robert Shapiro.
Oh
His
no.
just face is
Oh my
like-
God.
I'm sorry, I said I don't want to make fun of this.
So Serial Season 2, Sarah Koenig, if you're listening, get to the exchange because I don't think I can do
Step
another
your game up.
off the wall podcast. It's like point here, point here, point here. Just give me something to hold on to.
Yes.
Let me
Yeah.
follow.
Agreed.
There's nothing.
Where do you think season 3 is going?
Edward Snowden. Anthony, you're obsessed with. Do you have posters of Edward Snowden in your room?
I wish.
I
That guy's
feel like-
amazing.
Okay.
Tune
Secret
in.
Santa
That's
idea.
what I'm all in on Edward Snowden
yeah.
for season 3, but I can't do this.
I said side note that he requested a fair trial. He said he would come back to the United States if he gets a fair trial, but I said don't do it, Snowden, if you're listening, which you're not, because
You're in Russia.
Well,
you're
it'd
in
be
Russia. I don't know if they have free media over there, but
it'd be hard for
Say-
him to get
Sarah
a free
Koenig.
trial. Yeah.
A story told week by week with Edward Snowden
In
remotely in Russia, week by week, or every other day, or whenever I can Skype him, or about
Or
whatever.
El Chapo. We could have a little English Spanish
El
podcast.
Chapo.
Yeah, I'm open to.
El
yeah.
Chapo.
A little chappy chap.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, no! But I'm all in on Edward Snowden
Yeah.
season 3, and
That-
I'm over season 2. She bricked it. Too much Sarah Koenig, not enough. I'm ready for. I need
Mystery.
more. Let
Too
me
many
follow the
details
rope.
about both. Like some,
me
like
follow
I
the
said,
rope.
some
Dwight
are
Schrute
interesting, but
solved the
moving along.
mystery.
Yeah, we need to get to like the bigger picture as
Yeah.
far as how his case is going to evolve, because otherwise, do you think she's going to draw it out though when he actually goes to trial?
That's what I said previous, where I think she's honestly doing it because it's timing and because it's kind of trending.
She's trying to stretch it out.
But
until he-
there's
But
just-
Adnan's trial was like it was.
But there was more
well
substance.
that's
but that was
different.
well-
That's a murder case, Dave.
But I also said,
well after the podcast.
I posed the point of saying that with Adnan's case, it was in the past, so there
Right.
was more stuff to try to make a narrative.
Yes.
And with this, we're all seeing it. And we're just like, God, Bo, shut up.
I'm over
yeah.
it. We're done.
Yeah.
I know enough about Bo. I feel really bad. You've painted who he is as a person.
I do
You've
feel
painted
bad
the
for the
struggle enough.
situation.
But it's like this isn't doing it for me anymore because your storytelling isn't. It's not. I've said it again. It's not linear enough for me to follow through and know what's coming next. I feel
Right.
like I've been waiting 5 episodes for what I thought was going to be the prisoner exchange, and I've got nothing.
Yeah.
I think we're done.
But
Yeah.
form your own opinion. That's what I like to say.
But
So,
remember, everyone. Yeah.
so this has been Making a Podcast.
Boom.
Episode 3, a podcast about crime and murder, Mordor,
And other trending topics.
and other trending topics. And we got a couple people from the national media who see how those stories move into pop culture.
Yeah.
So that's what you got.
And also, side
James
note,
Bond.
if you guys have
James
any
Bourne.
ideas or any cases you guys want us to pick apart, send them to us.
Because we're
Yeah.
trained experts.
We've gotten a little bit of feedback
Well,
already.
You know,
And
working on it.
we'd like to cover what you
Yeah.
want to hear. So this is a #trending.com production. So you can see us on the website, write to us there. You can hit us up on Twitter at
tweets.
#trenders, or you can even tweet us individually. Below the YouTube link, we have all of our
We will respond.
Twitter handle's there. Yeah,
Maybe.
We will respond.
We will
We might-
respond.
maybe
we already
questionable-
we've had a couple shout. We even had one during the making of this podcast today. A little shout out.
Little
Little
yeah.
shout
did.
out. So I don't know, Jen. What else are you gonna ask for that login again?
Please help me. Yeah, I need a login, you guys.
Yeah.
Send me your cable login. I promise I won't.
She doesn't work for the government.
No,
She won't use your information.
I won't
against
use
you.
your information
Yeah.
against you.
So give us that feedback. So this is Making a Podcast, #trending.com, # tell your hot friends. I'm Dave.
I'm Jen.
And
Just a prod and poke.
hashtag tell your emotionally available friends.
We'll see you guys next week. Bye.
And shame, innocent girl, just gone missing. Puzzle is broken, people upset. They didn't do it. Come to your senses, everything is just foolish. Things clearly show that it was just a joke. Cops were only there just to prod and poke. Not a fair trial.